As I mentioned in one of the earlier videos in this title, Illustrator itself has kind of an identity crisis, meaning that there are just so many different uses for Illustrator. There's no one particular use, which is one of the reasons why Illustrator ships out of the box with a variety of new document profiles. As you see here in the welcome screen, you have something here called a print document, a web document, mobile and devices document, and the video and film document. Those are the four basic types of documents that you can create for, I guess, four different workflows that Illustrator plays very well in. We'll start off with these, but of course you can also create your own. I'll click on Print Document, and that brings up this new document dialog box. In fact, if you look here at the bottom, there's a button here called Advanced. By default, Illustrator doesn't show you all the settings, but hey, we're here to learn everything in Illustrator, so let's look at the advanced settings as well. And we'll go through these very quickly, and we'll come back as we need to these different concepts. Now, first of all, you have the ability to name your document right off the bat. We can do this later when you save your document, just saves yourself a step later. Notice over here that it says New Document Profile. This is actually quite interesting because if I move this back over here, remember how we had print, web, mobile devices, so on and so forth? Well, really that's just kind of one step, but you could change your mind at this point and really switch to any of the other profiles as well. And this is important, as we'll talk about in a minute. I have here the Print New Document Profile selected. We'll talk about artboards itself. For now, this is actually a new feature inside of Illustrator CS4, the ability to have multiple artboards in a single document. But for now, we're just going to leave it as set to one artboard. In the next movie, we'll come back to understanding how we could use multiple artboards. Now, the size of that artboard right now is set to a letter size, which is 8.5 by 11 here in the United States. I can choose, let's say, legal, tabloid, and there are a few other presets that are here as well. These are mainly used internationally, A4, A3 sizes, so on and so forth. Now, the reason why I pointed out to you the fact that you can switch between profiles here is because if I switch to web, for example, this same size pop-up menu gets populated by other sizes. Unfortunately, there's no way to basically customize these pop-up menus. The Illustrator team kind of decided on their own some of the basic or most used different sizes for each of these workflows, and they've programmed those into Illustrator itself. But for example, if I choose, let's say, video and film, I'll see a whole bunch of different film sizes for like high definition television or film or widescreen, so on and so forth. I'm going to switch back to print now. I'll see that I have the ability to change my units, my measurement system, points, picas, inches, millimeters, centimeters, or pixels. Of course, this is just the default setting. You can change these inside of Illustrator if you want to on a per document basis. You also have the ability to really use any measurement system at all inside of Illustrator in context. I can basically set my document to be portrait or landscape. Those are these icons right here, tall or wide. Bleed is actually useful for when I am actually using print workflows where I need to add extra parts to my design so that when my paper is trimmed, it actually has the artwork that prints all the way to the edge of the paper. Again, we'll talk more about that when we discuss more about artboards themselves. The reason why I mentioned the advanced section here is because these are actually important settings. The color mode setting is either a choice of CMYK or RGB. If you're in a print workflow, you're always going to want to stay in a CMYK workflow. If you're inside of a document that's basically going to go to a computer screen or to a television screen, so meaning web design or animation, or if you're doing something, let's say, for movies or for television broadcast TV, you will then choose the RGB color mode. I won't get into details of exactly RGB versus CMYK. It's a far more detailed discussion, but basically, if you're in print, CMYK. If you're on a computer screen, RGB. You also have the ability to determine what your raster effects resolution is, and we'll talk more about this much later on in the title when we talk about our live effects, which are raster-based effects that you can apply to Illustrator, for example, drop shadows, and what resolution those get rasterized at. You can also choose the default preview mode. You have something called pixel and overprint preview. We'll discuss those later on in the title as well. Just want to point out to you, though, that if you switch between, let's say, print and web, you'll see that some of those change automatically. For example, raster effects, since most screens have a resolution of 72 pixels per inch, that changes automatically here as well, and the color mode gets changed to RGB. So the nice thing about these profiles is basically that it's not just choosing web or print as just a name. It actually changes some of the settings for you in your document itself. So that's basically how you create your new document. I'm going to go ahead and choose, for example, print right here. All my print settings are here. I can specify a setting here. Let's choose maybe inches. Maybe we're doing something that's like 5 inches by 7 inches. And then we choose OK, and that creates our new document right here inside of Illustrator.